When they say that calling for a Green New Deal is, quote, too much or too extreme or too radical, no middle ground is right. Because I'm always curious when they say that, oh, it's too much. What do they actually mean by that? Is 100% clean and renewable energy too much? No. Is fighting for dignified jobs that pay people enough to live too much? No. Is proposing a solution on the scale of the climate crisis to solve it too much? No. No. But let me tell you what's too much for me. Here's what's too much for me. What's too much for me is politicians looking and allowing babies' blood to get poisoned in Flint for corporate profits. That is what is too much for me. What's too much for me is coal barons coming up to Washington, D.C., demanding bailout after tax break after bailout for themselves, and then not even paying their own miners' pensions and put their own miners' health care. That is what is too much for me. That is too much for me. What is too much for me is the fact that ExxonMobil knew exactly that climate change was real and man-made as far back as 1970, and instead of being part of the solution, they paid millions of dollars to lobby and lie and confuse the American public about it, endangering generations to come. That is too much for me. What is too much for me is the fact that in 1989, the year that I was born, the year that many of us were born, and in years after and right before, that politicians were first informed by NASA, that Congress was first notified by NASA that climate change was going to threaten my life and everyone here's life to come, and they did nothing. That is too much for me. And I will be damned if the same politicians who refused to act then are going to try to come back today and say we need a middle of the road approach to save our lives. That is too much for me. We cannot, and we will not accept anything less than a solution to save ourselves, and that's exactly what this is. Our history may be written, but our future is not. And we have every possibility in the world to change it. And cynicism about our future is exactly what the opposition wants. It's exactly what they want. They want you to think that it's too late. They want you to think that the future is pre-written. They want you to think that the power is too far imbalanced. And I'm here to tell you that all of those things are false. We are at a crossroads unlike any we have seen before. But the good thing is that the average everyday person has never been more powerful in human history than it is today. Never been more powerful. Between our abilities to educate ourselves, educate others, the abilities to win over our families, to have these conversations, to register and get people to the polls, to have people organize around issues, to elevate our collective consciousness about our racial history, about our nation's history, about our science, about everything that is bringing us to this moment. We have never been more powerful, and big money has never been weaker, and that is exactly why they are fighting so hard against the Green New Deal. We are fighting against a logic that says poisoning and giving communities cancer is okay if an oil company can post a Q1 profit, and we're here to say no more. What we are fighting against is a logic that says it is okay to pay someone less than they need to live, and we are here to say no more. And what we are also fighting against is a logic that says we can extract enough off of human life and our environmental resources to the point of destroying our own humanity just to post-profit no more. We will not accept that anymore. We cannot accept that anymore. For so long, this political paradigm that we have operated in has relied on us settling for less in order to, quote, win. And what that logic has gotten us to say settle for less in order to win caused us to lose 1,000 seats until recently the House, the Senate, and the presidency. And the idea that if we continue on that logic, that we will somehow win after years and years of losing is the definition of insanity. We cannot allow ourselves to be bullied out of our values anymore. And we do not have to be scared by demanding a living wage, by demanding health care for all people as we transition to an economy that is decarbonized, sustainable, and just for every American. But again, I cannot do this, but you can, we can together. It is going to take a level of organizing that we have never seen, but that is what we have been doing. We've already been pursuing levels of organizing that we have never seen. People say what is possible in electoral politics. People will vote for this, people won't vote for that. The turnout for the 2018 midterm primary was 19%. 19%. And everyone is talking about what is electorally possible. But here's another statistic. In New York's 14th congressional district, in that primary, we expanded the electorate by 68% over the last off-year midterm election. People will vote if there is something worth voting for. And a Green New Deal is exactly what that is.
This is Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez at Howard University in the aftermath of a bombshell UN climate report. The report found that 1 million species are at risk for extinction and that carbon dioxide levels are at 415 parts per million, the highest level in human history. The issue of climate change has become one of, if not the top issue for Democrats heading into 2020, with a staggering 82% of Democratic voters saying it was very important that candidates support taking aggressive action against climate change. It also serves as a jarring juxtaposition to Republicans in Washington, who are currently still performing political theater and suggesting that climate change isn't even occurring. The reason being, of course, that they wouldn't want to do anything to endanger their campaign donations. Not only did the oil, gas, and coal industry spend over $350 million per cycle, of which 88% goes to Republicans, but fossil fuel interests enjoy nearly $30 billion per year in subsidies and tax breaks. And this is the ultimate irony. While Republicans decry any Democratic plan to address the imminent dangers of climate change as socialism, fossil fuel companies have been sitting on decades of government handouts. In other words, it's socialism when it's Democratic, but patriotic when it's Republican. Got it. But the fact is that the Green New Deal isn't socialism, even though the right uses that term as a catch-all for any Democratic proposal. Despite the fact that Republicans are propping up fossil fuels so they can keep cashing their checks, renewables are now more efficient and less expensive than dirty energy. And that sector as a whole employs leagues more Americans than the coal industry. While there are about 59,000 coal jobs left, there are nearly 3.3 million clean energy jobs in the US. So while the GOP claims that they support jobs, the fact is that they only support them on the condition that they derive some type of benefit. AOC took the opportunity too to land a thinly veiled swipe at Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden, who publicly suggested that we find middle ground on the issue of climate change. The quote was widely condemned by progressives worried that he doesn't appreciate the gravity of the climate crisis or wouldn't embrace the proposals set forth in the Green New Deal. Biden, for his part, responded to the criticism, claiming that his critics should calm down and look at his record.
Look, all I got to do is go back and read what I've done already, and you'll be hearing very shortly the totality of what I plan on doing. So, It's a long campaign, and everybody should just calm down a little bit. Take a look at the record from before. There's nothing been in the middle of the road about my effort of dealing with the environment. Nothing. And if you look at that, what's that outfit? The fact checks. That they said that I have a consistent great record on the environment. It's been a game changer from the time I got involved. And what we did is, in the administration, $90 billion for dealing with climate change. There's big significant changes that are taking place. There's much more to do. We do need a green revolution. I made a speech on the floor back in 1987 and talking about why there's an existential threat to humanity if we don't move.
While there's still time for Biden to lay out his plan to address climate change, the fact is that until and unless he treats the climate crisis as the existential threat that it is, he'll likely have trouble winning over a massive faction of progressives who will vote on this issue, and this issue alone. Because
people will vote if there is something worth voting for. And a Green New Deal is exactly what that